All right. Why is this? Why is this? Sound going out? Yes, sound is going out. I don't know why I see that there. Mixed. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to do this in English. Hope that's okay. I don't know. Are there any non-Swedish speaking students in this class? You don't know? Possibly. Okay. Anyway, I will do. All the lectures will be in English anyway. And then I guess there would be some stuff in Swedish if you speak to the teams, and if they only speak Swedish, you choose whatever language you want. But I will speak English. So, last year there were, I don't know, 20 people in this present. How many people are there in this course? Do we know? Okay, work with me here. How many people are in other? What's going out? You see that?
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. So you have no idea how many students there will be in this course? Is it like normal courses you take? Is it like 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 people?
No, we're very few on campus.
Very few on campus, okay. But remotely?
We're damn few.
Okay, so we really have no idea at this point. 35,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So my name is Ola Peterson, and this is Lasse sitting over there. And you won't see me a whole lot in this course, but you will see Lasse a lot. At least virtually you're going to see him a lot. And let's see here. So all the lectures will happen in the first 2 days. So I have one lecture this afternoon, and then 2 tomorrow, before and after lunch tomorrow. And then, because this course is really about a software development project using an agile process to develop this project. And we're going to do it by the book. Because the course is very much about the process. So you might feel sometimes a little bit awkward, maybe, that you would really need to do this. And we're going to say yes. You have to do. Yes, you have to meet every day, for example. Is that really necessary? Not necessarily, but we are teaching you the process here, and so that's part of the process. So next Wednesday, we're starting the projects, and Lasse will talk more about those. I'll talk a little bit about the administrative part of the project. So each student is assigned to a cross-functional team. Has any of you used Scrum? Ever? No? Because Scrum is the agile methodology that we're going to use here. So you're going to be assigned to cross-functional teams. How the assignment is going to happen is up to Lasse, really. Yeah. Right? And each team works on one project. Last year we had 2 different types of projects. This year we're actually going to only have one definition of a project. But since the teams are different, and in Agile you're not deciding, as part of the idea is not to decide everything beforehand, but you're kind of setting out in a general direction. So it might be that different teams end up in different places, and that's perfectly okay. At the end of the day, Lasse is going to be the product owner. He is responsible for what you are building. And he might say to one team that, we're going to take it this way, and say to another team, we're going to take it another way. That's up to him. We're going to have weekly iterations, which means that every week you commit to doing something in this project. And at the end of that week, you are presenting what you've done to Lasse. And these meetings are mandatory. And since a lot of you are off-site, we figured that out virtually. There's going to be mandatory daily meetings. And they're going to be short. They're going to be 15 minutes. And I know that a lot of people, especially remote students, are probably working full-time at the same time as they're taking this course. So it's up to the team to figure out when during the course of the day you want to have that meeting. Ideally, it's kind of for the sake of rhythm, it's kind of better to have it at the same time every day. But if this is not feasible due to professional obligations, so be it. The important thing is that the meeting happens every day. And we're gonna be anal about this, right? Last year we were not anal enough about it, but so you're going to be exposed to us really enforcing this, right? And the purpose of the daily meeting is really to ensure that everybody on the team knows what's going on all the time. That's the whole purpose of it. You know, when you leave the academic world and work in a company, you might find other ways of making sure that everybody knows what's going on, right? But for here, we're going to have the daily meetings. And then we're going to have a final presentation of what you accomplish on Wednesday, January 10th. Everything will be published in CoursePress, right? Yes, it will be. You guys are already using Slack, I presume, for communication. We're going to use something called Redmine, which is kind of an ancient web-based project management tool. We were considering switching, but the thing is that this one, it really does the job, and it's tailored for Scrum. There's plenty of other tools out there, like you might have heard of U-Track and Jira and all these different kinds of tools. But we don't want the course to be about learning the tool. This will take you 15 minutes to figure out everything you will ever need to do in Redmine, so because the course is not about that. And you're going to use GitHub or use?
Yeah. That depends upon you, whether
yeah.
you want to use GitHub or not.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever you want to use is fine. It's fine with us. It doesn't really matter. Examination. Okay, so this you've probably never been exposed to before. So we have these weekly iterations. And after each iteration, each student is going to get 40 or 20 plus 20 virtual dollars. Right? And what you need to do is, after each iteration, you need to divide these dollars, assign these dollars to your fellow peers, to your peers on your team. Right? And so you have 20 in total to spend on technical contribution, and you have 20 for adherence to the Scrum process. Right? And the total number of dollars that you get over the course of these, is it like 7 iterations or something like that, is the most significant input to your grade on this course. Because the reasoning behind this is that this is project work. We can't really tell what's going on. Us teachers cannot really tell what's going on in the project. We don't know who's doing what, and if there's some freeloaders or somebody's doing everything. But by asking your peers, we get a very good picture of who is doing what, or rather how much different people are contributing. And so that's the major input to the grade you're getting. We will also use our own kind of observations during the course of the course, and that's particularly Lasse during the course, since he's going to meet with you every week, but also based on the end product of what you produce. So these are kind of the 3 components that go into the grading process. And I've used this kind of examination. I think I've used it maybe 6 or 7 times or something. And once have I had a student who was dissatisfied with their grade. And typically, and this student said, but you know, I don't understand. I forgot if he got a D, I think he got a D. It was not on this course, it was another course. I said, but you know, I was one of the strongest ones on the team. And then I look at the numbers, and that judgment is not shared by any of his peers. Based on his peers' assessment, he's one of the weakest ones on the team. And that's it's kind of interesting how different, I mean, we know that. I think a lot of the frustration in life is based on the discrepancy between what we think of ourselves and what we think other people think of ourselves. Sometimes a huge discrepancy there, which is interesting in itself. So peer reviews example. So here we have a team of 6 people, or 7 people. These 6 plus you. And so this is how you might distribute your dollars for one iteration. And you distribute your dollars in this way because in your subjective opinion, right? There's no objectivity here. This is your subjective opinion. Right? This guy, Vuitton got $0 for technical because he didn't make any. Based on your assessment, this guy didn't make any technical contribution in this iteration. So you give him $0. Whereas Gustav is here. Well, apparently he excelled when it comes to the Scrum part of things, and he was about average when it comes to technical contribution. So don't be afraid here. This is based on your, don't be worried about hurting anybody's feelings. This is anonymous, right? I will know, but your peers won't know how many dollars you gave them. Right? So be honest here, right? And I will get to what happens if you're not. So peer review rules, they must be filled out the day after the sprint review, meaning the presentation of the most recent iteration. So that day or the day after needs to be filled out. If you fail to submit, you will yourself get $0 that sprint, because some of your peers might have given you dollars, right? And you have decided not to give, or forgotten possibly, to give anybody else any dollars. So if you're not giving anybody any dollars, you know, whatever dollars you receive are canceled out. If you fail to submit or receive poor reviews in 2 consecutive iterations, you will be issued a warning. And after 2 warnings, you fail the course. So think of the first warning as failing the first exam. And the second warning, you're out. And gaming of this, because I'm sure some of you will start to think now. It's just, and I don't blame you for that. As a matter of fact, I encourage that kind of thinking, right? How can I, okay, because you should be creative, right? You should look for good engineers look for shortcuts all the time, right? But the thing here, so how do we know if you're gaming? Well, what often happens is that if you have a team, you might have, say that you have 2 people who are weak on the team, and say 5 or 6 people who are reasonably strong, right? So what we tend to see is that the weak people give each other dollars, but there's no dollars coming from the people who are actually doing the work to the people who are not doing the work. So you see right away kind of 2 clouds. One of the weak ones who are only giving themselves dollars, and then one of the bigger group of people who are only giving themselves dollars. Right? Sometimes they might throw some dollars to the weak people, but typically that's out of compassion. Right? And you might think here, okay, say that we're working on something in one iteration which I don't know a whole lot about it. right? It's difficult for me to contribute technically. Well, here's the deal, right? As is the case in industry, if you know where you're heading, right? You know essentially what you're building. Clearly, there's something that you can do for the team in order to move closer to the goal. Even if you cannot produce any code in that particular iteration, maybe you can help somebody else who's actually capable of producing the code with some testing. Or maybe you can help them with something else. Or go bring them coffee. Whatever it takes in order for your peers to appreciate your contribution to the overall project. Any questions? Lasse will talk about the project. Yes?
What is considered a bad review? Meaning, if I get like, alltså hur definierar en dålig review av mina jämlikar? Alltså, när får jag en varning?
Okay, so the question was, what's a bad review? Well, I would say a bad review is, we said 2 iterations, right? Way below average 2 iterations in a row. If you have one weak one, shit happens, right? You might get sick, right? And also, in general, this also applies to the mandatory meetings. Shit happens, right? You might run a flat tire or something, but then make sure that somebody knows that when this meeting happens. This should never be the case that you attend a meeting and somebody is asking, where is this guy? And nobody has any idea, right? So if you're prevented from attending something, notify your peers. So bad reviews. I mean, so say that the average is 4, right? So let's say that there's 6 people on the teams. You distribute $20. So the average would be 4. If you get $1 or $2 from each peer, two iterations in a row, yeah, that's a bad review. And let's see, what did I say there? If you fail to submit to receive poor reviews in 2 consecutive sprints, a warning would be issued. And I might even send out an email to somebody who gets 1 really sucky review. Right? Say, you know, if you don't pick it, if you don't improve, you're going to get a warning next time. Other questions? I can guarantee it will be fun. Because most of the time, most of the coursework here is actually development work. And I can also guarantee that you probably will, I shouldn't say I guarantee probably, but I would imagine that you will be quite surprised by how much you manage to produce in 7 weeks. And there's no way you would have managed to produce that if we had just given you the requirements and you had started with a high-level design and then a detailed design and then functional requirements and then start to implement that. No way you would have gotten anywhere at all. But using this methodology, you actually constantly deliver results. And we're focusing on value. Okay, then I will hand this over to Lasse. See if we can find.
So let's see. Yep, here we are. First of all, I'm not an employee of LNU. I am a guy from the business sector, so I have my own company. So that might be interesting sometimes when we're talking about things here. I have experienced a few things as well, and if you will find me talking about one of those fantastic stories, it will probably be true. So this is the way we're going to communicate, and this is what Ola already said. It's CoursePress site, and it will be up and running in a day or two, and also Slack and that live channel, which if you are not looking at this, then you will probably have having a problem looking at anyway. So, and that's the schedule. So Monday is today, that's the blue line. So tomorrow you will have 2 lectures by Ola, and then next week on Wednesday, that's when we're supposed to meet. And that will be a group by group meeting, where I will be sort of acting as a product owner. And then you have the 10th of January, where that will be the final presentation, and that will be a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun last year. There were a lot of good presentations. There's a lot of good systems. And this is the very short description of that project. And what I want and Ola wants you to do is to create a system for managing user manuals for any kind of devices. So if you have a look at the second item there, if you imagine that you have a dishwasher and it suddenly sort of stops and there's a LED blinking, there's a LED going off, and you start to wonder, what does that LED mean? It's probably something really bad. And then you start looking for your manual and you won't find it, or you don't understand it. So what I want you to do is to create that system where I can search for the manual for that device and give me some help. That's the general overview. And there are 2 points of view here. One is when you're the manufacturer or the representative, and then it's you, the user. So we can create this system from a lot of different angles here. And as Ola said, I will probably tell you different things depending on what group you're belonging to. And my major problem will be is to remember what I told you. And that's also part of the real life out there. And I'm not telling I'm going to lie to you, but you never know. I'm not evil in that sense, I think. So, and this is what we're going to talk about on next Wednesday. So I will sort of present the things in more detail, and you will start to ask me questions and all that stuff. And then we will start to plan, or really you are planning. I'm not in that sense. And that's the general layout for the team, for your teams. And there will be a development team, and there will be a Scrum Master. And the Scrum Master is a sort of a project leader. I know that if I'm looking at Ola right now, he will wrinkle his eyes and say there's no project leaders here. No. But if you want to compare something, that's the one. And that Scrum Master will be Scrum Master for half the time of this course. So after sort of mid-time, we will change the Scrum Master. And which one it is, well, that's up to you. If there is someone who wants to be a Scrum Master, well, talk to your team and tell them that you want to be a Scrum Master. And also this is a thing. I mean, I am assuming that there are a few of you that are just attending this university, and there are some of you who are already working. And you all have your angle of this. You're good at sort of graphical user interfaces or usability, Some of you are really good at the web service. Some of you are really good at back-end programming or front-end programming. So what we want you to tell me, and I will supply a link for this. What we want you to tell us is what is your main line here? What is it that you want to work with here, and what is you good at? And based on those facts, we will compose the teams. And it works really good, at least last year. So, if you become a Scrum Master, then you will have access to me as a mentor. You will have access to me about an hour a week if you want to, and we will sort of set up a meeting based on the availability for the Scrum Masters and myself. And I will use Skype. That's my way of communicating, because I really like to look at people when they are talking to me. Because when I am looking at you, I can see you, then I know when you are saying, I do understand, but you really don't. So body language is an important thing here. And also that third note there, each team will switch to Scrum Master after mid-iteration. I already told you about that. The thing here is that the Scrum Master participates in the development team, which he or she usually don't do. So they will have a sort of a mixed role here. Okay. And then we have those product owner meetings. And that's also a weekly thing. And we will set up a day, perhaps the Friday is the day when we will meet on Skype. You will show me what you have been doing, because we will agree on a few user stories that you should accomplish until that meeting we will be having on that Friday meeting or Thursday meeting. I don't know, that's up to you and me. And also when you have been showing what you've been doing, we will also sort of have a short planning meeting where we will decide what user stories to do for the next iteration. And that's the way it's going to be. So even if I'm telling you that, okay, this project is going in that direction, I might change that after 3 iterations and moving it over to a different direction. And that's possible due to this agile method. So this will be very, very interesting. And that's the sprint planning. That's the sort of sprint 0 that we'll be having on Wednesday next week. So I will be here from 10 to 15, and depending on how many groups there are, we will have a more or less amount of time for each team or each meeting here. And that's the date for the final presentation, January the 11th, or was it perhaps the 10th?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, let's have a look at the schedule. So, any questions? There are no Slack questions here.
Let me just say that I think some of these things will become much, much clearer after tomorrow. Because there's some terminology we use here which has not been introduced yet. But after tomorrow you will understand what all these meetings are about.
Just relax. This will be fun. I promise. All right. So no questions here or on Slack. And in that case, I and Ola would like to thank you for taking your time here. All right.
So we'll see you at 1:15, right? Okay.
1:15, right? Great.
The real stuff starts.
Växjö.